Hello, everyone, and welcome to the AgCulture Podcast, where we share insights about the future of agriculture. Each week, we dive into the stories, technology, and ideas shaping a sustainable and profitable future for farms and rural communities alike. I'm Paul Windemuller, host of the AgCulture Podcast, and today I'll be having a conversation with Ed Pollock, who is the founder of SDG Precision and Custom Farming. And I've known Ed for quite a number of years now. I've kind of watched him grow and develop his business along with mine. And as I've gotten to know him, I've just really enjoyed the character of the person that he is and how he's built his business over a number of years. I think there's a lot of great nuggets to take away from Ed's story. We'll also spend a little bit of time talking about some of the new technologies that are out in precision agriculture in the row crop market. So I'm looking forward to having you hear that. That's an area, usually I'm on this podcast, I talk a lot about precision agriculture or ag tech from a livestock standpoint. But Ed and I had a conversation this time more geared toward the row crop side of agriculture. So looking forward to having you hear the insights, not only as an entrepreneur, but also in ag tech. So listen up and enjoy this episode with Ed Pollock. Hey everyone, before we get started with the episode, I just wanted to take a second to thank our sponsor, Bank Barn. I love what these guys are doing to streamline banking in agriculture. They're helping to connect farmers and lenders so that today's farmers have more options no matter the size of operation. Check out bankbarn.io to learn more. Well, Ed Pollock, welcome to the AgCulture Podcast. It's great to have you in the fancy studio of the AgCulture Podcast here in my cow barn.
Perfect.
Ed and I have gotten to know each other over the years. Ed's chopped silage for me in one of the businesses that we'll be talking about today on today's episode. And got a lot of respect for what Ed's built over the last few years. It's been really cool to see him expand his business in agriculture and into a few different aspects that we're going to discuss today. So, Ed, let's start out. What's your story? What's your backstory? How did you get into agriculture and the business that you're in today?
Sure. I started in Illinois. I grew up on a hog and dairy farm in northern Illinois. Went to school actually through John Deere's tech program and then worked in a dealership for a short time. And then I moved to Colorado and got out of ag. Never wanted to be in ag again. Kind of wanted to say I'm done with ag for a while. Met my wife, got married, had kids, moved back to the Midwest. My wife was from Michigan, so we moved back to Michigan and was looking for a job. And so I ended up landing on a dairy, a large dairy. So right back into agriculture. And while I was there, they had not implemented any technologies. They hadn't done anything with that. And that really spiked my interest. And so I started working with them on technologies, and I'd been there probably 6 seasons then. And we went from no auto steer to variable rate seeding and fertilizing and doing a lot with grid sampling and those types of things. So that's kind of how I got started into the technology sector. And then we went to Wilbur Ellis, worked for that company for a short time, and then into an implement dealer. And then they ran into some changes they needed to make, and I had to find a job. So I had a dream of always owning and starting a business, and so that's kind of where we came up with SDG.
Awesome. And so today that looks like a few different things, but it started out really as a custom operation business, right?
Correct.
Custom harvest.
Yep. So we wanted to do custom harvesting, but we knew we needed to find something for the off seasons. So what we were going to fill our off season with, and that's kind of where we got into our technology side, saying, hey, this is something I really enjoy, something I was passionate about. And I always feel like if you're passionate about something, you're going to do a good job at it, or you're going to want to work at it and make it grow. And that outside of the custom side, the custom farming work we do, that was the other piece that I really, really enjoyed, was the technology piece. So that's kind of how that sprung up as a way to offset our slower months and keep that moving.
Yeah. What were some of the bigger challenges or struggles that you had starting out? I mean, every business owner, when they start a new business, there's always some big major challenges, especially starting from scratch like you did, right?
Yep. I think some of what we do is a little bit capital intensive.
Yep.
So that was probably our biggest challenge, is how we were going to navigate that. And we formed some really good partnerships with some people that enabled us to move forward with that. And so I think capital, finding the right strategic partners that we worked with to get started. Some of our vendors today that have been with us for, since we started in 2015, they were really, really gracious in helping us get started on the technology side. And I believe, capital, and then just strategically trying to find those right partners.
Do you have any tips on finding the right partners? What aspects of a good relationship do you look for?
Someone that believes your story, someone that can actually relate to your story, someone that can really buy into your story and want to be part of it. And I think that's where it came, was one, me communicating the story, what we wanted to do, sharing the vision, and then finding those people that, hey, I really like this. And then also your values and your belief systems. I think that's really important as well, so that you're equally yoked on how you move forward. Yeah. And those partnerships, they might be 6 months, they might be 6 years. They don't always have to last forever, and that can be part of that story as well. But finding those people and being able to communicate that clearly.
Yeah. Now, I want to touch on the aspects of going back to the custom harvest side of the business to start. I view it from the farmer perspective, as you know. We've had that relationship for a while. What's that like? What are some of the challenges and things that you've learned from your side of the table?
One, I think the challenge that's been the most challenging, I guess, would be understanding what the customer really wants and what they really need, and balancing both of that. A customer says, hey, I want it done timely and efficiently. Well, there's a cost to that, right? So where do we find that balance of costly, effectively, efficiently, yet still maintaining a value there that's affordable? So I think that was one thing from the custom side. I mean, we could go out and buy 10 tractors and 10 spreaders and 5 choppers, but a customer can't necessarily afford that. Right. So how do we navigate that to make that work for said customer? And then how do we spread that cost over multiple customers, setting the expectation that, hey, we'll be there on Friday. Well, now it turns into Monday, so trying to work through that, helping those customers understand that. So that's been a challenge, communication and setting the expectation, yet still providing the value that they expect.
Right. Now, obviously with the custom harvest business, like you said, it's really boils down to timeliness. How do you deal with breakdowns or issues that come up, maybe due to the weather or breakdowns that are unforeseen? And I've seen you handle them probably better than I've seen any other custom operator handle them. So that's one thing I really appreciate about the relationship that we have. You seem to handle it really well. So how did you learn to do that?
Well, thank you. I appreciate that. I think, one, have a calm head. I mean, you can't, something breaks, something happens, is being able to think clearly and not get upset, because it's already stressful enough, right? So if you're able to communicate to your employees and to the people that you have working for you, hey, it's just nuts and bolts. So it's big, maybe big nuts and bolts, but it's just nuts and bolts. So let's, take a step back. Let's, find out, who do we need to call, whether it's a dealership or whether it's, parts you have on hand. The other part I think we do work really hard at is making sure we have those special parts or those special pieces on hand. Yep. So if something does happen, we can quickly get it changed. So we're down for 3 hours, not 3 days. Yeah. So trying to make sure we understand that part of it. And then having there again, we're back to the partnerships and making sure we have a good dealership network that we work with and as well. So, and everybody knows there's breakdowns. It's just how fast can you get back going again. And that's kind of how we try to manage that. Just first and foremost, keep it calm. Have parts that that you can have readily available, and then have a good dealership network to work with.
Well, I think one of the things you probably learned over time too is having a diverse array of equipment, probably as well, right? With like silage wagons versus semi trucks, and having a good mix so you can deal with weather that comes up.
And I think that's one thing that's here where we are in our market, that we have to have such a diversity of equipment to do our work. Mm-hmm. Yeah, it's maybe costs us a little more, but we don't know when it's going to rain. We usually are harvesting maybe even into October, and we have to deal with mud. So semis don't work very good for that kind of work. So we have to have tractors and wagons. Or if it is nice, then we can bring in the semis and leave the tractors and wagons elsewhere. So having some of that diversity is really helpful.
So let's go back to the business as a whole. What are some of the key turning points that you had and decisions that you had to make as a entrepreneur, business startup owner?
So when we started the business, like I said, we had partnerships that we worked with, and we started in 2015. And then the goal was to be 4 to 5 years, then that partnership would dissolve, and SDG would then myself would be able to buy them out, and we would stand on our own. And that I think was probably one of the hardest things, because now I'm assuming all of the responsibility, all of the capital, all of the loans and the that goes along with that capital. So I think, but at the same time, that then in turn allowed me to do things that I wanted to do without having to run it through 2 or 3 other people, and which I think that kind of moved us to the next step. So hiring a couple of employees that I didn't have to go, and then buying another machine, and then now starting to really take some shape. We needed the partnership to get started, but then having that end date, that end goal there, saying, hey, after this many, whatever it may be for you, but for us it was 4 years, then we were going to make the next step. Mm-hmm. Yep, it was risky. It's still scary at days, but it's very rewarding to see kind of how those decisions continue to help us move forward.
All right, let's transition to the next stage of your business, which was bringing on the precision agricultural side. Mm-hmm. How long did that take to get into, and what was kind of the catalyst that brought that about?
Sure. So, like I said, in 2007, we moved back into this area, and when I started at the farm, they had no technologies, and that's kind of when we got into it. And once I started doing it, first thing we did was auto steer and then planter monitoring. That's kind of when it started for me, the technology. So I have been involved with it since 2007, and I've never really ever gotten out of it. We've always been in some form or fashion involved, whether it's data management or actual hardware or writing prescriptions or whatever. And I think that's always been something that's been there, and something I'm still passionate about to see, because we see the value of being able to measure, being able to make decisions, and being able to execute those plans based on the technology we have. So to me, it's always been something that I've done in agriculture since we moved back into this area.
Okay. And one of the big partners that you're working with right now on that side of the business, you guys are an Ag Leader dealership.
Yep.
Correct. So what are some of the exciting things coming out of Ag Leader right now that you're working with on a regular basis with farms, and things that maybe you haven't implemented yet that you're looking forward to?
Sure. So with Ag Leader, we also work with precision planting as well. So with those two companies, between the two of them, they have some really cool things coming. Some I can talk about, some we can't talk about yet. But some of the technologies that's coming, and some of the things that we do on a day-to-day basis, obviously, is auto steer. Some of the wins that we've seen with some auto steer is we had some specialty crop guys that had small patches, and they didn't ever use auto steer. And once they started using auto steer, they ended up gaining rows. Okay. So if you could gain 3 rows of peppers, there's some good value there, some good revenue there. So even auto steer for those guys was a huge win for them when they're transplanting and what have you.
Okay.
And then some of our other guys are looking at multi-hybrids on their planters. And we've got a couple customers that have really embraced that. And they have very, very diverse soil types, whether it's inside pivot, outside of pivot. So the planter now is changing hybrids on the go as it's able to as they've navigated through that, knowing what a defensive hybrid, an offensive hybrid, what needs to go where. And they've done a really nice job of implementing that and executing that. So those are some of the technologies that we've embraced and we've been working with our customers on that have been a huge win. The other thing with technologies today, I think, is when we first started farming, we farmed the field, right? Yep. So it was a 40-acre field or a 20-acre field. We farmed that big square and we were happy. And then, then in the 80s, 90s, we started sampling differently and said, well, let's farm this acre. And then really in 93, when yield monitors and stuff came out, now we could really start dialing in. And then planter system so we could a variable rate. Well, now we're getting to where we can go plant by plant. Whether some of our harvest data that's coming back is maybe something we're going to be able to do plant by plant. Our seeding, our spraying. So those are the things. It's great to see even on a large scale go from a field to an acre now to a plant. Yeah. Being able to farm that way.
What benefits do you really think are going to come out of that per plant level? Do you think we're going to see the return on investment for those type of technologies?
I think my belief is that when pre-season what you're going to spend per plant, so whether it's a seed cost, a herbicide cost, a pesticide, or any sort of treatment in season, your fertility, what it's going to cost you per plant, you'll be able to, I think, better navigate, your profitability. Mm-hmm. So if I know that it's going to cost me X dollars, per acre based on the plants that I'm going to put in that acre, then I know my marketing strategy can be, hey, how do I make sure I'm covering my costs? Now, what do I have to work with beyond that? Yeah. So I think those are some of those things that we have the opportunity to achieve. And with seed companies, they're getting better at being able to tell us what variety really performs well where. Yeah. So and they continue to learn as well as they continue to develop and grow.
Right. One aspect that we struggle with in the dairy industry, I know with data is, maybe we have 4 or 5 different systems on a farm, right? Mm-hmm. And you're trying to make decisions that would really be beneficial if you could pull all of it together.
Sure.
To make one decision rather than 5 decisions on all the different technology and try and put that together.
Right.
How does that work in the row crop side of things with where you're at with bringing that data together to be able to make a coherent decision?
Yep. Obviously, everybody has an opinion, right? so there's some softwares that, hey, this software is the one that does this, and this software is the one that does that. In my opinion, we've been very blessed to have one of the premier agronomy softwares and SMS through AgLeader. I mean, that program brings everything together. It's pretty colorblind. And so a lot of guys have used that SMS program through AgLeader to bring in everything from your AgCo equipment, from your deer, your case, even outside, drone footage, all that stuff. They've been able to bring all that into that software. So it kind of gives you a landing spot. And then there's different software then that allows you to push it back to AgLeader's, even their cloud through AgFinity. And then it gives you that mobile option, either it's on a phone or an iPad or whatever it is. So that has been a good landing pad for us to bring all that data together, because there's a lot of data that you're collecting and then you're trying to analyze it and figure it out. And you may have, one piece over here and a piece over there, but that program has really been advantageous to us in our program.
Do you see at some point that type of technology being able to give maybe more future forecasting of, hey, if you decided to do this, then you're going to get this result based off the historical data you had? We're starting to see that in the dairy industry with looking at potential for sick cows in the future.
Sure.
That's just something I was wondering if that's happening yet in the row crop side of things.
I think modeling is still something that we're trying to figure out. And I think unlike maybe some of the other industries, forecasting in agriculture, at least in crop production, we still have the weather.
Right.
At the end of the day, our good Lord, He is still in charge of the weather.
Right. That's not going to change.
Granted, we can put in tile, we can put in pivots, and we can mitigate some of those things. But at the end of the day, we can't necessarily create heat.
Right.
We can't necessarily create cloud cover or no cloud cover,
Mm-hmm.
for sunlight. So those things there, it's really hard to model that. And about time we think we got it figured out, it changes. But can we model, hey, if we use this hybrid and this soil type with these types of applications, can we relatively predict a yield? Yes. And we have those tools today.
Okay.
Do we have all the people that are trained to use them? That's the next challenge.
Right.
And if young people are thinking, boy, I don't want to be a farmer. Well, there's a whole lot more to agriculture than being just a farmer as well, right?
Yeah.
Because of some of those tools that people need to learn to use and continue to develop and grow in. So to answer your question, to a certain point, yes, I think there's some modeling that we can do and that we do within some software.
Okay. So what do you see are some of the big misconceptions out there around precision agriculture? Because I think there are a fair few of them, especially even in the farming community.
Sure.
Right?
I think one, you got to define precision agriculture, right, or precision technologies. I would define it as even right down to soil sampling and how you do that. So a misconception I hear is my farm's too small. Well, I don't think any farm's too small to be able to do more dense soil sampling, so that you understand what's going on in far as fertility goes. Yeah. I mean, to me, that is a technology that can be used on your farm without a whole lot of cost. So my farm's too small or it's too expensive. Those are the two main things that I probably get some pushback on. And then through further conversation, they say, well, I already soil sample and I already do grid sampling. Well, then you're already using technology. Right. So you've already made that step, so maybe the next step is, how do I variable rate it? Yeah. I grid sample, so I know where everything is. So those technologies have been proven to pay. I mean, if you don't need, 2 ton of lime over all the field, you only need it in a couple areas. I mean, that will have almost paid for some of those technologies.
Well, especially as input costs like seed and fertilizer have really gone up over the last few years.
Correct. Yeah. And, it's, in my mind, environmentally, it's getting the right product in the right place, right, at the right time. And if you can accomplish that, the ROI, while the outlay of cash to begin with, I understand being maybe a little more, but then the reward of that and having that, better managed, is there.
Yep. What are some of the trends that you're seeing in precision agriculture or the row crop side of agriculture over the next 5 to 10 years? Where do you think things are going?
Boy, that I don't.
Not a very big question,
right? I mean, I guess I could have probably answered that easier 5 years ago. Today, because of we have drone sprayers, drones doing more spraying. Are those drones going to stay that size, or do you think we'll get to large battery powered drones? I don't know.
Do you think we're going to need to spray in 5 to 10 years?
Yeah, that's a good question as well. But as people talk about plant health and people talk about human health, what does that look like? What do we need to sustain those things? Unfortunately, we live in a fallen world, so we're going to have weeds. Yep. We're going to have pest pressure and what have you to have to deal with. I mean, like it or not, we're going to have it. And so those things are still going to have to be mitigated. I think the smarter the technology, when I say plant by plant, I think it could be weed by weed. Mm-hmm. So as you take those rigs across the field, we're actually seeking out and we're destroying those weeds that need to be destroyed without actually doing blanket applications, which in turn is better for fertility, soil health, better for plant health. We're just utilizing the chemistry and the things that we need just in specific areas. And I guess I see that coming. The autonomy of that now, I think that's probably the next piece. The next big thing will be autonomy. Mm-hmm. Whether it's small autonomy on large equipment or small autonomy doing large jobs. What that looks like yet, I don't know. Yeah. But those are definitely things that manufacturers are working on. Those are definitely things that a lot of startups are looking at. Right. And then being able to control that stuff either remotely or with 1 or 2 guys, or being able to farm 10,000 acres with 2 people, wouldn't that be cool? That would be a something maybe down the road, but that's probably more than 10 years. But those are things where I see technology can potentially, from a hardware standpoint, really help.
And you brought up the point on soil health.
Mm-hmm.
How does I know soil health seems to be kind of the next frontier. We don't, I think we know more about outer space than we know about soil health right now. And it's kind of an exciting space to be in. There's a lot of talk about it. How do you see precision agriculture affecting that space and our understanding of soil biology and soil health over and above just, NPK and pH?
Yep. That's probably a little above where my understanding is, but a real simple, we need air, we need water, and we need good texture, soil texture to grow crops. And so if we can work to manage those three well, and I think that would be where more of our moisture probes, more of our soil probes and things like that are going to give us more feedback. Mm-hmm. There again, if you can't measure it, we don't really know what to address or how to handle what may or may not be going on in the soil.
Right.
So we have to figure out how to measure it. We have to figure out and understand what's going on there. And yield isn't always our measurement, mm-hmm. Because of other variables that are in the air or what have you. So to be able to answer that, I'm not sure I can give you a really good answer to say, hey, this is what technology is going to do for soil health, microbial activity. I don't know. I think there's a lot of things. There's a lot of different opinions. You ask 10 farmers that question, you're probably going to get 10 different answers. So,
maybe 12.
Yeah, maybe 12. Or maybe 20. Who knows?
Right. So Ed, to wrap up, I would like to get your perspective. What guidance would you have to give anyone that's looking at starting a business in agriculture or being an entrepreneur, going out on their own, whether that be a younger person or somebody that's mm-hmm. been kind of spent some time like you as an employee that wants to start a business now, maybe mid-career? What advice do you have for them?
I guess first off for me was I had a dream when I was young to start a business. I didn't know what it was. I thought I wanted to be an equipment dealer, and that definitely changed over time. But as time moved on and as I had different experiences and different employment opportunities, I was always building a network, always building a network of people. And I guess that's the first and foremost thing is rely on your network of people, whether it's family, whether it's friends, whether it's, old employers. Try not to burn any bridges because you just never know, especially in agriculture. It's a small world, and I guess that's the first thing is develop that network of people, because it's whether you're going to go into something that's capital intensive or whether you're going to just try to start, selling seed or whatever business that you have, you're going to want to be able to fall back on those people for either support, one just to talk to, or as a customer. But that's kind of for me how we got started. The people we partnered with were people that I used to sell product to when I was working at a dealer. Okay. So that's how I got started, was being able to partner with a customer that I used to sell to. Yep. And then all of the experiences before that is what enabled me to have the skill set and the tools to do that. The second thing is don't be afraid to fail. If you're going to swing for the fence, swing for the fence.
That's right.
If you're going to crash and burn, do it really fast so you can start over again. So I guess, those are things, and be willing to take the risk. I started this when I was 40-ish, 40, 41. And I thought, boy, I wish I could have started this 10 years ago, but I figured I got time. My boys are 22 and 18. And I say, man, swing, just go for it. You got lots of time. We can always make more money. We just can't make more time.
Right.
So I would say if it's a desire, if it's a passion, go get it. And you're going to work. Mm-hmm. You're going to work hard. So make sure you're passionate about it, because if you're not passionate about it, it's going to be really hard for you to get up and want to go do it tomorrow after you just got kicked in the teeth. Yep. So every day I love getting up and doing this job. Even if I got a broken chopper sitting in a field with a flat tire and a wagon dumped over in a ditch, I still love getting up and going and doing it again. Yep. Or if I got a customer that got ticked off because something happened with his planter, whether it's my fault or not, or whatever, I welcome. I don't welcome those calls, but I welcome the challenge. Yeah. Of those things, because we just love to do it, and we find people on our staff that that really enjoy doing it as well. And it's been a huge blessing.
That's awesome. But you brought up a point about your kids. You have an 18-year-old son, a 22-year-old son coming on, and they've been working in the business a little bit with you side by side. How does it look? I mean, it's not a farm, but it is a business. So what does that look like for you? Maybe transition-wise, maybe not transition is the right word, but growth-wise, bringing on another generation into the business.
So I think that's something that my oldest son and I, we've talked about. He'll graduate from school here this coming spring, and then we've really encouraged him and to go work somewhere else for at least a year or so. So one, he can hear somebody else's voice other than dad's, and he can also then potentially glean some new skills and some new opportunities and what have you where he goes. There again, building that network of people. So when he comes back, do we want to add more equipment? Do we want to add more people? Do we want to add more services? Those will be conversations that we'll have. And, I'm a firm believer in you're going to work for your shares of the business. So as they come back, they're going to have to be passionate about doing what they're doing as well, because they're going to have to get up and be part of that whole team. And if they want to, go off into trucking, if they want to go off into more forage harvesters, they want to go off into more mineral, that's great. But let's work through the steps of what that's going to look like, and you're going to get some skin in the game, but you're going to have to work for it. So I'm excited for what that holds for them in the future. But and they may say, we just want to sell it. Okay, that's how I do. So we want to hang on to it loosely. I mean, we've been blessed, being able to have it and be good stewards of it, and are working to be good stewards of it. So, but if they say we're done, well, we're done. When I'm done. So
for somebody that's still working as an employee, that's maybe 3 to 5 years from starting a business, what advice do you have for them? I know you mentioned your skills that you built while you're an employee. What ways did you maybe consciously do that so you could prepare yourself to be an entrepreneur?
I guess for me, I was always looking back. So I was not looking back as to what should I, could have, would have, but looking back to say, hey, how am I building upon what I've already learned?
Okay.
So I never had done sales before, but I had worked on equipment. And typically when you're wrenching on equipment, the farmer's standing right there over your shoulder saying, hey, what's going on? How's it going? Are you ready yet? I'm ready to go to the field. When's it gonna be done? Give me 5 minutes. Comes back 2 minutes. Hey, it's time to go. And so, so it's just trying to develop those soft skills for me, just being able to talk to the customer, let them know, hey, we're doing the best we can. Here's what we're doing. And then trying to work through that piece. The other piece, when we buy and sell, we buy equipment or lease equipment for the custom side of our business. And when I worked in the dealership, I got to learn how that worked. Yeah. So that was really one of those pieces that,
got an inside look, really.
Yeah. I mean, so here's what's it cost to buy a tractor? What's their discount? What's my discount? How does all that work? So we were able to kind of have an inside look on how that works. So I was able to utilize that to leverage some of our positions as we purchased equipment.
Yep.
The technology side, same thing, but don't be afraid to go to school. Don't be afraid to go to training. Don't be afraid. Hey, I know all this. Well, I was at training here about a month ago and I learned more stuff, even though I've been doing it for 12, 13 years. So there's always the opportunity to learn from those experiences, or even while you're still in your job today.
Yep. That's great advice. So, Ed, to close out, is there anything that I know you had mentioned that you guys are still in growth mode? Is there anything in growth mode, somebody that might be listening to this, that if they'd be interested in talking to you, that you'd be open to talking to them about?
I'm always open for a conversation in anything, right? We are non-biased to color, to operation, to anything, because we have the real privilege of being in a very diverse area in the United States. And we really, really enjoy the challenge of that. So whether it's just to say, hey, I heard this, can you tell me about it? Or, hey, I really need this. I have this problem. We like to talk about it. So we are always open for a conversation of any sort. It doesn't matter if you're in Washington, if you're in Florida, wherever. We really enjoy those conversations, and whether we can be of help or not, I don't know. And if we can, great. Kind of new for us on our custom side this last year, we started investing in doing more custom manure hauling and those types of things. So that's something that we want to really continue to grow and move forward. So, with kids graduating college and coming back, there's going to be some opportunity that they're going to want to have. And granted, while they're not going to get it given to them, they're going to have to work at it. We want to be able to provide the opportunity for them to work at it.
Yeah. So, Ed, how can people find out more about you and get a hold of you?
They can get a hold of us at sdgprecisionag.com. On our website, all our contact information is there. All the products that we handle on our precision side is there, and even some of the services that we provide on the custom side is there. So they can email us. Our phone numbers are on there, all of that. So again, that was SDG Precision Ag. So
all right, we'll put a link to that in our show notes as well. So if you need to, you can just click on that in the show notes. So. All right. Well, Ed, thank you so much for coming to the farm today and to my high-end studio here in the corner of the office in the barn. I appreciate you stopping out and having a great conversation as always. Enjoyed working with you over the years and been really impressed by the business that you've been building. So.
Well, thank you, Paul. Likewise, really, really appreciate the opportunities. Thank you.
Well, thank you once again for listening to this week's episode with Ed Pollock, founder of SDG Precision and Custom Farming. As I said at the end of the interview, you can find some more information on Ed and his business in our show notes. And as always, if you found value out of this episode, please share it with somebody else that you know that would also find this interesting. Share a link to our podcast. We really appreciate it. And also, if you'd be so kind as to leave a rating and review for us on the platform that you're listening to, we always appreciate those as well. That really helps people find our podcasts that are searching for topics in agriculture to listen to for a new podcast. So I want to thank you once again. We'll see you next week for another exciting episode of the AgCulture Podcast.